Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you. My name is VashSky. I'm going to be your host for today's ceremonies. And with me, the amazing, the one, the only, the spectacular, the Spectre from... I got to figure this out.
I'm more of a Smirch than a Spectre, actually, but that's another story.
I see. The one, the only, LW guest.
Hello, everyone.
Lou, how you doing?
Well, pretty good. You know, it's funny. I was thinking, watching the title sequence again, the very first shot has the glamour tram in it. And I'm going, was there a backlot before there were tours of the backlot? Maybe not. But, yes.
Oh, so good. Those memories. But thank you so much, everybody, showing up. Very much appreciate that. See Karen Owen, see Deborah, see Mary White, everybody. Jan Monroe in the chat right there. Walter Tomaszewski, I believe. And everybody, thank you so much for coming on in and spending some time with us. Oh, and Erica from Hanging with Erica and Raf. Thank you so much for coming on. By the way, T3PO Live back at its regular scheduled time, Tuesday, I believe at 3 p.m. Eastern right there. So definitely check us out.
We always feel like we're doing that scene from The Wizard of Oz, you know, and you were there, and some of it was wonderful and some of it was nasty, but you were there. So we'll try to keep the nasty to a minimum and the wonderful, otherwise.
That is the key, Lou.
Anyway,
you gotta keep the nasty to a minimum. And unfortunately, I don't think Disney quite did that with their latest offering, Snow White. Oh boy. A couple of hours before the show actually started, we actually got the official numbers for this weekend's box office. And boy, oh boy, they're bad. Okay, let's go over them real fast. Exhibitor Relations Co. has this to say: audiences didn't bite the apple, that is. Disney's Snow White couldn't survive the critical snowstorm as their latest live-action adaptation debuted with just $43 million this weekend. Yes, that's lower than Dumbo at $45.9 million.
Wait. Let's carry that a little further. How many screens was it on? A couple of thousand?
4,200 exactly.
So what's 4,200 into 43 million?
Oh, that's a good day.
Get out your magic calculator and figure out what
I'm doing it right now.
For the whole weekend, remember, not for one show.
Sure. Okay, so $43 million. There we go. Divided by 4,200 screens that's about $10,000 a screen.
For an entire weekend's worth of what, 4 or 5 showings a day?
Yes.
So it's probably 15 showings with the short version on the night before. But I hope they sold a lot of popcorn buckets. That's all I can say.
That's terrible. And again, that's a split cost there. Didn't amount to much better at the worldwide box office. This by Hollywood Handle. Snow White underperforms, earns $87.3 million on its global box office opening weekend. That's including domestic. The film had a $270 million budget.
Being the operative word, had as in past tense. I
was just about to bring that
time
up.
Matters, It's a framework. So anyway,
sure. And Jay Monroe, you were exactly correct. Dumbo did come out in 2019. So again, add at least 30% onto that, and that kind of gives you a better, clear indication if you factor in inflation on how far Snow White underperformed right there.
And may I suggest that inflation figure has another important thing that we don't consider.
Please.
When inflation is high, it isn't just high on movie tickets, it's high on the popcorn, but it's also high on things like gas and rent. And so people are making a financial choice. It's not we'll go to the movies too, no big deal thing anymore. It's will we go to the movies, or will we eat out, or will we pay the rent this month, or will we order in, or will we pay a subscription to something other than Disney Plus? Or it's no longer a casual decision, because it isn't only about the cost of doing it. It's the cost of the things you would have done with the money and have to do with the money if you didn't do it. So.
Right. I think that's a really good observation right there. With, I think, less discretionary income, are you necessarily going to get people in the door?
Opening below 1 million. You see, they should have had John Cena play Snow White. Then it would have been okay. We had, him in that haircut would have been really interesting, wouldn't it?
for those, yes, it would have been for those listening and not necessarily watching. Gitesh Pandya on Twitter or X says Snow White opened to just $43 million this weekend at domestic box office. That's between $46 million of Dumbo and $37 million of Maleficent 2. Saturday didn't. The Saturday pop didn't happen. Small dip instead. Disappointing start for super expensive production. $44.3 million international debut for global launch of $87.3 million. China opening below $1 million. Everybody thought that maybe China would accept this film simply because it was Snow White and because people out there go crazy for this specific property right here.
But see,
Apparently
China
they didn't buy
has
it either.
an expression in Chinese. You may have heard of it. Ho
Please.
hum. That was their attitude towards this.
Yeah, we're gonna just not go to that one for sure.
Okay, all right.
Hollywood Reporter had this to say: Snow White limps to alarming $43 million domestic opening, $87.3 million globally. I think the original title for this was Worrying, which worrying
The
implied
subhead
that
is what's funny. They're trying so desperate to redeem it somehow by saying, "Yeah, but it wasn't the worst movie this weekend."
yes, yeah.
You know, that's like, well, there's spam, spam, sausage, eggs, and spam. It hasn't got much spam in it, you know.
Yeah. But even with the alarming language right here, it's like, okay, this has no chance, people. And Pamela McClintock here goes into why. Trouble is a brewing for the controversy-laden Snow White, live-action remake of the iconic 1937 animated film that put Walt Disney's film empire on the map. The big-budget tentpole opened to $43 million domestically, enough for a first-place finish, but behind even the most modest expectations after getting battered by so-so audience scores and underwhelming reviews. That's even less than Tim Burton's Dumbo, which came out at $45 million in 2019. 46 thereabouts. Overseas, Snow White took in $44.3 million for a global launch of $87.3 million after hoping to clear $100 million.
I am going to be kind and not make a role reversal joke about the first line of the next paragraph. I'll
The
just
good
let you all do it in your dirty little minds. You know? So anyway, look, guys, we knew this was happening. They knew this was happening. Everybody knew it was happening. But, you know, maybe that's what burned up behind the bakery at France. Titular roles.
The
Anyway.
line, I believe, from the Snow White song is Disney used to launch acting careers and now it ends them. Is kind of the line right there.
It wasn't the airplanes. 'Twas the semi-beauty who killed her beast.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point right there.
Blame Disney for casting her, maybe, but after that, I keep quoting that great line from the wonderful movie that you should watch instead of this. It's out there on all the streamers, I'm sure. It's called The Professionals. It's a great Western in which there's the famous line, you know, I've met some SOBs in my time, but you're a self-made man. It's Lee Marvin delivers that line. But anyway.
They tanked this film before it even had a chance to run. Snow White is a rare Disney live-action remake that earned a B+ cinema score from audiences. Almost every film has received some variation of the A grade. I believe every single one, by the way. Still among moviegoers under the age of 18.
Come under scrutiny for her remarks. What remarks did she make that came under scrutiny? That she said,
oh, yeah,
I am an Israeli and I am an IDF veteran and I don't like killers?
Right.
Wow, man, you better come under scrutiny for that. Jesus.
Yeah, it's wild, Lou.
Anyway.
And remember, we covered the Hollywood's Walk of Fame there, and when Gal Gadot got her star, she had protesters who protested that ceremony right there, which was really sad to see.
They can, because there was nobody at the Tesla dealership that day for them to burn down.
Exactly.
This
film,
that these people, regardless of their politics or anything else, they go where the cameras are. You know, and so if more of them show up to protest Gal than do Rachel, that tells you something about their relative standing too. It tells you, well, we want to go where you can get more attention. So,
indeed. It's just from casting to direction to the early promotion for it, everything was against this film. And here's the thing: even if they did the best job they possibly could, which they did not, but they had the best working on it, you still are trying to live up to what was one of the best films of all time in the 1937 version of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So this already had a lot against it, and nothing, unfortunately, helped. B+ cinema score. This thing is dead, folks. Turn out the lights. The party is over.
Yeah, I was joking with you earlier. Just preview of coming attractions, folks. Pro has asked me to be on the Pro Show on Tuesday. And I said, what are we doing? And he said, oh, the usual things, because I'm going, well, let's see. Snow White is dead. The Disney call is dead and over. What's left? But I have faith in them. They'll do something stupid between now and Tuesday, and we'll have a new issue. I believe in the best of everyone, and their best is entertainment.
Now,
Not of the kind they intend.
Exactly. I'm going to go ahead and put this back up here because I thought you made a really good point in the back room here before going live.
Yes, people, we actually talk and we're actually friends.
Yes.
Big revelation, I tell you.
We absolutely are. And we were talking about color grading because this film is color graded very, very badly. I mean, really, really bad. Colors are muted. Doesn't give off that fantasy type setting right there. Everything is flat. And
that's a better picture than most I've seen. That one that's being
Yes.
used to illustrate this. There's actually some light on her face and some backlighting on her collar there. My God. Who'd they let in for a day who knew what they were doing? So the story I was telling you that I can just get to and explain to people about what good technicians and cinematographers and artists know that bad ones don't. There was a show some of you may remember called Major Dad. And in it, after the first season, they changed Marine bases to a new one. Therefore, they had a whole new set with a whole new home base of a living room and a stairway and a door to the kitchen and the usual stuff you see on sitcoms. Well, the cinematographer was an old-timer named Vinnie Martinelli who knew his stuff. And what you may not realize, but you can watch sitcoms for this, because it's a set and it's not with windows actually facing the real world, outside those windows, there's usually just a blue sky cyc and a couple of fake tree branches to kind of give the impression that there's a world out there, but not really, too detailed because, hey, it's in the background. Well, in order to help obscure that reality, they put what are called shears. Now, those of you who know window treatments know that shears are kind of lacy white curtains in the windows to kind of obfuscate the fact that there isn't any real sky or real trees or anything out there. Well, Vinny walks onto the set on this new set, and he looks at that and he turns to the powers that be and says, "What network is this on?" And they tell him CBS. He said, "Okay, we need to fix something." And he had them take these all white shears and take them out and dye them flesh color, kind of off pink, off, like a Crayola crayon flesh color. Why? Because he knew as a pro that at CBS headquarters in New York, there was some guy whose job it was, based on network edict, to make things cheerier, to crank up what's called the chroma on every show to make it brighter and cheerier and more fun. And the problem is, if those curtains were white, they were going to be blindingly white if you cranked up the chroma. So he had to dye them that flesh color so that after that happened, not on the set, not when people were standing there looking at them, but after it got out to the world, they would look normal. And that's the kind of savvy that people have who know what they're doing, and why you hire experts, and why not all artists are alike. And end of lesson.
I love that story because it is so true. Those industry vets who understand the process, who understand from experience decisions made, and especially as it relates to like maybe individual networks that might have their own proclivities in terms of how they want their content to actually show up in front of audiences. I mean, that's just invaluable right there. Unfortunately, we got none of that with this film. This film is very gray, is very dark. There's almost
I see our friend Stuttering Guitarist in the chat saying, "Why does the final scene look like a puffy party?" I haven't seen the film, folks, so I cannot critique it. The last thing I want to do is tell you uh, what it should have been, as opposed to what it is. But I've seen clips now, just recently, of this final scene where everybody's in white and she's doing dancing that sort of looks like bad cheerleading with her arms waving around. And I'm going, oh my God. Ain't my style. Let's just put it that way. There it is.
there it is right there.
There it is. Well, who
Yeah.
choreographed this?
I don't know. I have no idea. We've seen
By the
this.
way, for those who are not aware, this is not the end of her career. She has officially taken on her next gig, which is going to be a revival in London on the stage of Evita.
Yeah.
So imagining this little girl as Eva Peron, wow. Some imagination, huh?
Exactly, indeed. It is really bizarre, the decisions made in this film, and I think it can basically just boil down to they had an idea.
I just realized where that choreography comes from. That pseudo Irish jig stuff that they're doing with the hands behind the back and that guy on the right. It's from Light Magic, or as we all called it, Light Tragic. The pseudo river dance pastiche of families that was such a disaster at Disneyland way back when.
Wow. Yeah, it's just, oh boy, I don't know what they were thinking right here. And I think it just boils down to the fact that they had an idea in their minds about what kind of picture this would be, especially when looking at the political climate at the time, right? Because I think at the time it was like, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and do these films that are far more progressive, let's say, than we've ever done before. So we're going to have progressive values and so forth, and we're just going to imbue that into this film. And then the backlash came, and it was like, maybe we're heading in the wrong direction.
Here's the thing. If you had done an actual frame-for-frame remake without all the progressive stuff, would you have alienated progressives to the point where it would hurt the box office? I don't think so. But what you wouldn't do is turn off your core audience that liked it, the original.
Right.
In other words, there's that old, I actually wrote an article about this on that Park Place that you can all read. First, do no harm,
Yes.
Second, it's got to be better than the original if you're going to redo it. They violated those two rules pretty profoundly, it seems to me.
Do you have the title of your article? I want to go ahead and make sure that we get that out here.
Well, if you look up me, and it'll be the most recent one, because I think you put it up last weekend.
I believe it's this one, right?
Because believe it or not, Marvin is a human being and likes a weekend off. So when I give him an editorial, he says, well, I always hold it till Friday or Saturday so I can take a weekend off. Right. But let's see here. Scanning back to the distant past. There we go. No, that's pro. Let's see. Anyway, it's out there. Just look for me in the most recent and it'll happen.
I think this is it right here. Let me go ahead and put this in the chat.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Everybody can read some amazing thoughts from LW Ghost because his analysis on this stuff is
and it was more about Imagineers and things like Tiana's broken animatronics adventure. But
indeed.
Anyway,
there is this industry trend. It's really odd. Let me see if I can bring that back up. Not that. Hang on, guys. Yeah, there's this industry trend where you have it's the films look flatter than they did before, right?
Yes,
so
I agree with you. They do.
That's in film, not good. You had not good at all. In film, you had contrast, right? You had dark scenes, you had light scenes.
It's called hairlights, backlights. It's called separating the foreground from the background.
Right.
This is something that's only not rocket science and been done for 100 years now. I mean, back to silent movies, for God's sakes. So, oh well.
And it's just so
why should we learn those lessons?
right. It's just
Because
so
like it might cost us a couple extra lights.
yes. Or here's the thing, Lou. I mean, the way I've heard it is, okay, the industry has changed. So if you have, let's say, somebody in your foreground, right? Um, with a lot of these big budget tent poles and productions and so forth, you're going to have like maybe a blue screen in the background, and so you want to light that subject as flat as you can, so that in post you can do whatever you want to it.
But quite the reverse, actually, because you want them to be standing out from whatever's going to be behind them.
Right.
In fact, go look at the good blue screen stuff in the Avengers movies and things like that, and you'll see nobody's lit that way.
Yeah.
Nobody. I don't care how many red ping pong balls on green screen suits you have, you got to be able to, feel the depth.
Yes.
In fact, certain directors were famous for not doing it that way, but doing it in the camera. Otto Preminger, most notably, didn't shoot coverage. Especially when widescreen came in, he shot a widescreen framing of everybody and had people standing at different distances and in different groupings to differentiate them. So if you can't learn from him or from Hitchcock or from for God's sakes, you don't have to go back that far, from Scorsese's early stuff. I don't know. I don't know what they're studying, but they're not studying the classics, except to the degree they want to destroy them. But that's my same old rant. I'll save that for another time.
Well, it's just it's one of those things where with the implementation or the invention of technology, right? We shouldn't use it as a crutch, especially in the process, while forgetting like some of the old tenets and core kind of cinematic techniques that have endured for, like you said, 100 years. To forget those things as we embrace this new technology, I think is really doing
there's a
disservice to
whole
these
lot
films.
of memory holes going on. I've told you my story, but maybe some here haven't heard it.
Please.
About once upon a time, I'm standing in line at what's called the Stage Door Cafe at Disneyland, which is the burger joint next door to the Golden Horseshoe.
Yep.
And there's a couple of young 30-something Disney people standing there, and they're in deep, intense discussion, basically asking, why is this line moving so slowly? Now, my first thought when I hear them talking to themselves is, wait a minute. Companies from around the world used to come study how Disney handles crowds and how Disney handles lines. And you've forgotten how? But they were doing it, and I was overhearing it, and I was very polite and ignored them. But when I went inside, what I found was that you walked in and the first person took your order and said, are you having a good time today? Because they're trained to be friendly. And the person in line said, oh man, yeah, we just got off Splash Mountain. And they said, yeah, isn't that great? Don't you love the scene where the so-and-so? And they're having this long conversation with the person while they're waiting to go to the next person to get their food and pay their bill and come on out. Mm-hmm. And so when I came out, I walked by these two that were still in this intense discussion again. And I can't help it. This is just who I am. I said, excuse me. They said, yes, sir. Can we help you? I said, I just thought I'd let you know I have the answer to your question. Excuse me. I said, well, you were wondering, why is everything moving so slowly? Yes. Well, it's because your people are trained to be friendly, and they're being so friendly that their conversations with the guests are slowing things down.
Right.
You can be friendly in one line, not in 12. And they kind of almost patted me on the head and said, thanks a lot, little boy. Now go away. Because, of course, they know. And a civilian like me would never know these things. And that's the kind of arrogant attitude that we see in every facet of this outfit, even before you pile on the politics and the social wokeness and all the rest of it. So, it's they'll come here because we're Disney, even if we give them half as many attractions for twice as much money. And even if we let go the free bus ride that would have at least kept them more or less stuck with us for a week. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
so right on.
I see, by the way, there's a story. Everybody's now suddenly kicking into this fund to extend the corridor of the Bright Line and the what's the other one called? The Sun. Anyway, the trains to the convention center and they're saying to Disney Springs. The problem is that if Disney buses go from Disney Springs to the hotels, you're not allowed to bring suitcases on.
Yeah.
So unless you're traveling with a backpack only, you're kind of going to be stuck there without an Uber or a Lyft or whatever. So anyway, they never get this right.
Never get it right indeed.
And meanwhile, of course, next door to Epic, everybody's figured this out. Like this, what is it? Is it W that is building this 2,000 seat arena as part of their hotel that you can walk to from the Stellas and the convention center? And it's like, oh, well, if people don't want to go inside or they haven't got a ticket that night, we'll give them a show. What a surprise.
What a surprise indeed. That's a good idea right there. I did not see that. Jam Monroe has this, and I like this. Old ranch meets a new modern age, and we don't have to do any of that old crappy stuff. Forgetting that the old crappy stuff included focusing at the camera and lighting the entire space properly.
Well, see, I'll give you another example, Jen, as long as you brought that up. One day I was visiting the set over at Cheers, and you remember the Cheers set, everybody, with the bar in the middle, and upstage, away from the audience, on the left side, there was kind of a seating area, and there's headers, what we call, fake beams to delineate a ceiling that doesn't really exist, because up there above that line of invisible ceiling is where the lights and the microphones are. And Rhea Perlman came in, delivered a line up there, and the director that week, James Burrows, the master of such things, said, okay, wait, stop. Rhea, come downstage 4 more steps and then deliver that line. And being a good method actress, Rhea Perlman said, well, what's my motivation? Why am I doing that? And Jim said, because I can't see you up there. That was the deep motivational reason for delivering the line in a spot where the camera could see you. What a surprise.
What a surprise indeed.
So, practical counts, folks. Practical counts.
Speaking of practical counts, core cinematic techniques, like acting, stuttering guitars. I like that one a lot there. It's become more of an iron lung than a crutch, that being the implementation of technology and the inclusion of it. Yes, indeed. And lastly, but not least, Sam Spurgeon with the new generation of filming. We'll fix it in post. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Ridiculous.
What is the artist formerly known? Musseltov? That would be a Moselle wine that's good. Now, the word is Mazel Tov, and it means good luck or good wishes. But anyway. Well, I am here for you, my friends, your official Yiddish translator, along with all the other accolades.
Indeed. Let's go ahead and honor some people who have been so generous in
please do.
Super Chats to us. Mark Daly with the $5. Today's Disney Cinema. More turkeys than Butterball. More bombs than a Mid-East pager factory. Oh, that's oh man, that's a cut right there.
The Butterballs and the turkeys have pop-ups to tell you when they're done. Instead, we have actresses to tell you when they're done, I guess.
Walt is spinning in his grave like a lathe. It's a good one, Lou. It's a real good one indeed. Stormweaver with the Canadian $25. Good afternoon, LW Ghost and Vash. All the best to you and yours. Thanks for all the great work. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you for the super chat.
Indeed. Stormweaver. I love it. The Mom with 199. Raptura tallest and longest launch wing coaster, I believe, opens Saturday. Yeah, so...
Where is that? Which park? Where?
I believe... Give me a second here. I'll go ahead and look it up. I did see some video of that. That is King's Dominion.
That's right.
For Raptura. We're going to be covering, I think, a little bit of that on T3PO Live on Tuesday. It's interesting. The first videos of POVs have come out. I believe El Toro Ryan got a chance to actually ride that coaster, and he had like a camera on him at that time. And then we also saw some B-roll from like a news outlet in that area, and very alarming the amount of kind of bumps within that track. We'll go over it in T3PO Live, but
Be
I
there
don't know
or
what's
be
going on with
square. What is it? 3 o'clock officially on Tuesday, right after the pro show.
Indeed, indeed. It's going to be good, good stuff. But thank you so much for the super chat as well, the mom. Thank you, thank you. Now, Lou, we've talked about this subject before. This is a subject relating to the potential of saving the film industry in California. We've had a lot of productions actually move out of the state as these film studios are attempting to get like the biggest tax incentives that they possibly can in order to make their productions. Sadly, that has left California behind. Now, I'm bringing this up because there is a clip that has gone viral on X, at least, from a specific podcast, which is interesting. This was literally with Rob Lowe, okay, Snow White acclaim with the the Oscars, if you remember that whole story.
Oh yeah.
Apparently, Rob had Adam Scott on, and apparently they did star in a television show called Parks and Recreation. This is very interesting because we talked about it. They're now talking about it. Let's go ahead and listen to what they had to say on this specific subject right here. I did go ahead and bleep out a little bit of a curse word on this. What is playing? Oh, yes. The tail end of Snow White. Thank you for that. Let me go ahead and play this. And Lou, I want to get your thoughts after the clip is played. Here we go.
Interesting that you shoot the floor there.
It's cheaper to bring 100 American people to Ireland than to walk across the lot at Fox.
Right.
Past the sound stages and do it there.
Crazy. Do you think if we shot Parks right now, we would be in Budapest?
100% we would be. We'd be in Budapest. We would be.
It's so weird. There's nothing shoots in Los Angeles.
Nothing. I had my next show already done, scripts, deals closed.
Yeah.
And they said, we're shooting this in New York. And I said, I'm not moving to New York to do this.
Yeah.
And then it went away. The show's done. I'm not doing it.
Wow.
It's like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
It's just too expensive to shoot here.
There are no tax credits. So like all those other places are offering 40%.
Yeah.
40%.
Oh, yeah.
And then on top of that, there's other stuff that they do.
Yeah.
And then and that's not even talking about the union stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's just tax economics of it all. So it's criminal what the California and LA have let happen. It's criminal. Everybody should be fired.
It's a bummer. We have our office on Radford lot where we used to shoot Parks.
Yes.
And it is quiet over there.
Quiet.
That place, when we were shooting our show,
bustling.
Oh my God, every stage was filled and working, and it's really weird.
Super, super weird. I love that little lot.
Me too.
Me three. I had an office there once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
now let me say a couple things about this. First of all, when he said there's none, there is some in California. Go back to that previous headline that you had, though.
Yes. Here we go.
The reason why this is suddenly getting attention, and I don't know when that recording was made, because it had to be quite a while in the past if they're talking about there was none, because there is a tax credit in California. The reason is because there's a bill in the assembly to increase it. And so there's a lot of politicking going on to hopefully get that to pass. First of all, the intention of all these tax credits is to increase local employment. And the theory is that if you increase local employment, whether it's crews or whether it's companies that provide everything from, grip equipment to catering to whatever, that money will then come back into the state's coffers through the taxes on those people, and that the net will be a positive growth for the state's economy as opposed to the negative of handing out the tax credits. This is untrue. Every tax credit program ever done in this country and other countries for movies, for building stadiums, for all kinds of projects of this kind, not one of them, according to all the real financial studies that have been done, has ever resulted in a net gain to the coffers of the state in question. Now, that doesn't mean that's necessarily a bad thing, but it just means they're being sold based on a lie. I'm all for more employment anywhere. When you talked about Budapest and overseas, you also have to remember the crews work for much less than the crews here.
Yes.
And you also have to remember that the cost of physical production, whether it's building sets, whatever, is much less than here, because the standard of living is much less than here. And it's funny how these things happen. I had a friend who was directing American sitcoms, but way back at the beginning of his career, he directed like a bunch of episodes of the soap opera Santa Barbara. And they turned out making a version of it in Yugoslavia. And he started getting royalty checks because as the original director, he was entitled to some created by credit, you know. He said, I started getting these checks from this show I hadn't done in 20 years, but they were making it new. So it's all well and good to say, gosh, they should do it here and they should give us everything and they should do all of that. But know that it's a make-work project for an industry now. And of all the places that it should happen, in theory, California is the most because California has the industry, theoretically. On the other hand, 5-10 years ago, people were tearing down backlots to build sound stages because there was such demand. Now they're talking Vegas. They're talking other states that have, well, certainly Atlanta has now a big industry. Other places. And also understand that there's a question of per diems and what they call distant location rates. And let me explain that a little bit too. If you get hired and you are a Hollywood union member, and particularly the creative unions, I don't mean that they're not creative as grips or electricians, but in particular, actors, directors, writers, you want to be an assistant director on a movie or a TV show. And the movie's shooting in Louisiana, let's say. And they say to you, well, listen, we don't want to pay you the distant location rate, which is higher, and the per diem for living there, which is higher. But if you establish a residence there, like you rent an apartment or you find a cousin or something, and just walk on one day and sign up for a job, you're in the union, so you're entitled to work. I can pay you at the local rates, and I don't have to pay all those per diems and everything else. So there's all these tricky ways that are sort of tenuously legal according to the rules of the guilds, but still happen. And the people who crunch the numbers know what's going to be the best deal for them. And they're going to seek out the best deal, unless they work for Disney, in which case, of course, that's irrelevant. Anyway.
I wanted to get your take on this one, because I've not seen this before, and maybe it's surrounding the politicking that is going on, I'm sure. But this one was quite out there, at least in my mind. But I want to get your thoughts on this. Hollywood Reporter, one bold idea that could save California's film and TV industry. Let's see here. California is missing out on a golden opportunity to bring production back to the state while building a self-sustaining, potentially billion-dollar industry. Instead of thinking boldly, we're stuck in the tired debate of over-incentive caps. It's time to stop playing small and start betting big, like the global film powerhouse we claim to be.
Who wrote this? What idiot wrote this?
This is by Adam.
Oh, that idiot. Okay, go on.
Okay, thank you. California needs to invest actual hard cash directly into the film industry, not just soft money through tax credits and incentives, if it wants to truly revive production and compete with other states. Now, the country's equity-based funding models provide direct financial support to filmmakers, offering actual cash incentives in products in exchange for a share of the future profits, creating a more sustainable and competitive film industry. California's GDP, which exceeds $3.9 trillion, is significantly larger than that of the United Kingdom, France, and Canada individually, making it all the more perplexing as to why the state fails to match their equity pay-based investments into the film industry.
Nonsense.
Good.
Speaking as somebody who for most of my life was a California taxpayer, do we really expect, look, betting, as we've discovered with recent flopolas that everybody predicted wonderful things for when they were signed up for doing it, do we expect your tax dollars to be basically placing a bet on red that might turn up black? The idea that the state should be an equity participant in a private enterprise, 50 to 100% of the budget for films across all budget levels from 100,000 to 100 million, equity-based. Oh, no, 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 no. The state could earn a share of future profits, royalties, and residuals. Have they looked at how much profits, residuals, and royalties actually come back, even on a
Right.
so-called successful movie?
Yes.
Do we remember that when there was a famous case, most people don't realize that Coming to America was based on an Art Buchwald story. And when he never saw his percentage, he sued. And when they had Eddie Murphy testify about what kind of points were worth money and what kind weren't, he explained that the kind of percentage of so-called profits that Buchwald had in his contract were what real stars called monkey points, because you never saw them. So that was his words, not mine.
Right.
This is a total, complete, ridiculous BS article, is my verdict. What more can I
Future
say?
profits. Man, I don't know about all that.
So who's going to be the person in the state who decides which movies to invest in?
Yeah,
They have
that's the
invested
thing,
in
right?
Snow White if they'd been given the opportunity, saying, hey, it's a remake of a famous movie. It can't miss.
And as we know from some of the stuff coming out on the federal level, a lot of these incentives or direct cash payments and so forth, well, they don't indicate causes that you'd look to fund. Oh boy,
It's just insane.
That was this
insane.
paragraph is particularly sad there when it comes to the state of California in large, but it's gonna have to have deep
Many
discussions as
years
to what
of
you
his
do.
have left. You mean they went where the work is? Wow.
Yes.
And by the way, when they went to Austin, not only was it for work, it was for no state income tax, of which California is among the highest in the country. It's the same reason people leave and take their. I've told the story when I got ready to move. I was looking at other examples of people who had left or were leaving California. And I read a story of a guy in Silicon Valley who'd made his money in the IT world and had bought basically 4 houses. One he lived in, the other 3 he rented. And when he decided he was going to leave, he decided to go to, I think it was Colorado Springs. And he went around to tell the 3 families that were renting his houses that he was going to have to sell them, and he didn't know what deal they'd get from the next guy. And when he explained it all to them, they all decided to move with him. And he bought 4 houses in Colorado Springs, and all of them moved out because it's insanely expensive to live there. I ran into a lady in a grocery store here about a year after I moved, who was from California, who'd moved here as I did. But she said, of course, I didn't sell my house back there because I'll never be able to afford an asset that valuable again. I'm renting it. I said, well, that's great. I said, but when the property taxes triple and the cost of whatever management you're doing on the property and whatever maintenance you're doing on the property go crazy, will you be able to rent it in a declining economy for the same amount that pays its own way? And she looked at me with this sudden shock on her face. I wasn't trying to disturb the woman. I was just pointing out the alternative. And I said, and you'll never be able to sell it for what you could sell it for now, as opposed to then. And that's certainly true as we're seeing values go down. I always joke that if you go to what's called the Malibu Bay Museum, which is this wonderful home on Malibu Bay, and they have a little section with real estate ads from the 1920s and the 1930s for beachfront lots in Malibu for $240. And my joke is people make time travel movies all the time, but the only real reason to build a time machine is to go back in time and buy California real estate. But then you got to also know by this time that it was time to sell it 15 years ago. So there you go. I mean, look, my parents bought the house I grew up in for $82,500, sold it for $1,700,000. Same old 1920s Spanish house, which granted had been upkeep had been done, and but and then they bought a condo because they didn't want the maintenance and up and down stairs and all the rest of it, which they also sold as a profit. So That's California for you. That's the real estate.
$240 doesn't cover the filing fee associated with doing your taxes.
Well,
when
yeah.
you have a Malibu house on the beach like there, that's just insane. But yes, time machine, Lou, get on it. We got to buy some Southern California real estate right
Yes.
now.
Marty,
Boy.
your kids, they're buying real estate in Malibu. We got to go back to the future.
That's a Back to the Future.
How many jigga dollars did that house cost? And then, of course, with the Coastal Commission and everything, they started buying things in order to tear them down and build them over again.
Right.
Because they got grandfathered in if they left 2 walls or something like that.
That's the other thing too. I think Adam Carolla pointed this out when he toured the site of all these wrecked homes here from the recent fires. He's going all these houses are on septic tanks. I mean, if the code's the code, you're not going to change all that. So to rebuild, you're going to have to get the California Coastal Commission involved, and that's a whole big project and millions of dollars, and just to hook
dollars,
up lines.
Time.
Yes.
It takes years to get things approved.
Oh.
And what do you do in the meanwhile? Twiddle your thumbs or get the hell out? When my neighborhood was tragically hit by a very major brush fire, and it was kind of, there were dark comedic moments. The fire chief came through and said, well, there's a lot of cars burned out in here. There must have been people here. And they called out what they call cadaver dogs, to see if maybe there were dead bodies in the ashes that nobody knew about. And they got a hit at one house. And it turned out what they got a hit on was the woman who lived there's husband's ashes that had been on an urn on the mantelpiece, and it spilled out, and the dog thought it was. But and the reason the cars were there was because people were on vacation somewhere. They weren't all living there 100% of the time. But the degree of bureaucracy involved in starting over again and rebuilding to get a certificate of occupancy or even to get back in, the bureaucracy argued there were a lot of big trees that were technically dead because of the fire, but they were scorched on the outside, which meant that in them was still usable lumber. Mm-hmm. And the city and the state and the insurance companies fought for months. Who gets that lumber? Who gets to sell it for a price? So if you think the stuff Doge is finding is bad on a national scale, and it is, get into local politics sometime and see what happens. And we want these geniuses with no vested interest other than your best interest as your public servants to be deciding winners and losers in the movie business and putting your tax dollars into them, hoping to make residuals and monkey points. And yeah, right. Anyway, so somebody said, well, you can't just drop that bomb about saying it's BS. And well, I hope I've explained myself adequately.
Yeah,
there you go. Oh, somebody, artist formerly known, once again, makes it hard to sell because you can't sell the Prop 13 tax assessment with the house. That's right. That's right.
Oh boy, that's tough stuff. Yes, starting guitarist, he absolutely did. You can actually find that, I think, on his YouTube channel, YouTube podcast channel. It's very, very good stuff if you're interested about what's going on in the area right there.
And what they said about not allowing a septic at the beach. So if they said, well, we're going to put sewers in here, you mean the same sewers that you didn't have water for during the fire, that the reservoirs were supposed to fill, but you were saving snail darters or spotted owls or something? Yeah. How's that going to work out? The same DWP, Department of Water and Power, is going to service all that, huh?
Yeah, no way. Not a chance. But,
it's a shame, but that's the way it is. This was They Paved Paradise and put up a parking lot. Remember that song?
I do remember that song. In fact, we're going to be
playing it. And it used to be it was such a great place to live.
It was.
You had the beach and the mountains and the deserts and everything all within an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. But when it started taking me 45 minutes each way in non-rush hour to get to my doctor's office, that's when I sort of suddenly said, not only, I said, look, it may be that some wave of reason will sweep the population and they will kick the bad guys out and they will hire good people but it ain't going to change in my lifetime. And Pretty
Yeah.
soon you have to start treasuring your time because time is slipping into the future. But that's not about the backlot. Boy, we've gone far afield once again.
We have.
What
Well,
do you
let's go
got that's
ahead.
backlotish for me?
Let's bring it back to the backlot, or at least closer to it. We have a question here.
Or
from-
Backlot's wife, who looked back at Southern California, turned into a pillar of
Turned into
bureaucracy.
salt. um,
Of course, I've seen it.
well,
Of
let
course,
me
she
go ahead and read
was.
it.
Absolutely, I agree, Drew.
Let me read it for everybody who might be listening and not watching this from Joe
Yes,
here.
please do.
I was
forget.
wondering if you or Ghost has ever seen a movie called Against All Flags, starring Errol Flynn and Maureen O'Hara. I believe Maureen O'Hara was the inspiration for the redhead in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, the original version that is, and the original auction scene was inspired by this movie. Just wanted to know your all thoughts.
Yes, I
know
agree
the reference to
entirely. It's a great movie. Go see it, everybody.
it. Ooh,
That's one to stick on our list for the genre guys,
yeah,
which continues to explore and expand.
love that.
At least on
I love
most
that.
channels. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Thank you. I very much appreciate that.
Well, we
We're
just did
working on it.
3 more, so we're getting ahead of you. But there it is.
Indeed. I was not familiar with this film, and
And
that sounds-
interestingly, Tony Quinn again, playing another non-Mexican guy, non-Irish guy. Anyway,
yeah.
there she
It's just-
is.
Just very,
We wants
very.
that redhead.
Walt Disney took a lot of inspiration from film and television of the era. That is absolutely for sure. And so when he saw something he liked, he wanted it. Like, for example, the interior for the Golden Horseshoe Review, which was what was the inspiration for that?
Oh, I wouldn't say it's any one thing, but it was several of those scenes in the day.
Well, Harper Goff did a lot of those kind of interiors, not realizing. So he was, able to
And then
bring
they
inspiration
were
to
in
life.
turn copied. For example, there's that great scene in Around the World in 80 Days in the dance hall in San Francisco. So with, I think it's Dorothy Provine. Was that song? He shouldn't have had no oughtn't have swang on me, where she's on the swing, and then hey, Teddy Barrow's on the swing. So
Teddy Barrow. Exactly right. Calamity
we
Jane.
are incestuous, if not anything else, in the movie biz. We intermingle and we eat our own and all the rest of that stuff. But that's okay.
Indeed. Calamity Jane was what I was thinking.
Yeah,
right
there
now.
you go. There you go.
You're right. There was a lot of inspiration for that as well. Mark Daly with another $10. Thank you so much. When I publish my memoirs, chapter 1 is going to be time is not money. It's more important than that. You can always get more money, but you can only get 24 hours a day, no matter what you do.
Unless it's either leap year or daylight savings day switch over, in which case you get one stolen and one given back. My 2 favorite time quotes, as you've probably heard before, was Tom Stoppard, who said, "What is time anyway? Is it real, or is it just a confidence trick by the Swiss to sell watches?" And then Douglas Adams said, "Time is an illusion, lunchtime doubly so." So.
See, I did not know this 40s Mandalorian right there. I did not know that. I'm going to have to check this movie out right here.
Yes, and nobody complained.
Imagine that.
What if they gave a bride auction and nobody complained? Least of all the brides. They were moving up in the world from mere wenches to the wives of wealthy crooks. Something that still happens in our day and age.
We used to have a society when we could see bride auctions and not freak out. But speaking of the society we live in and contributing to it, Lou, what do you got going on over there at the Genre Guys?
Well, golly, we've just done a triumvirate of great movies. The one that's, I guess, coming out this week is, unless it did last week, I forget, How to Murder Your Wife was the first one in the string, which is a hilarious, wonderful, fantastic comedy that's always been a favorite of mine. And when you watch it with Jack Lemmon and Terry Thomas and Verna Lisi, you will realize it's one of your favorite movies too, even if you've never seen it. But it will become one. And then Neil Hefti, who did the music, who also is famous for the Batman TV show theme. And other little cameos in it. Key Day, Wo Fat on Hawaii Five-0. There it is. And then we have the one we did last night, which should be everybody's favorite crazy movie, which is Big Trouble in Little China, in which all kinds of wonderful factors combine to make Chinese magic, and Kurt Russell doing his best John Wayne impression, and Kim Cattrall, and all kinds of great stuff in this crazy movie, which was John Carpenter's swan song with major studios, because he was so frustrated with how this was marketed and how it was handled. It was a box office loser. They spent $23 million or so, and they made 11. But still, compared to nowadays, that's a minor loss, isn't it? Oh yeah, and of course James Hong as Lopan, the Ghost King. And there's a guy in this. Let's see if we get a shot of the three storms. His name is Carter Wong, the guy in the middle with the big chest when you see these three guys. And that was the set I had lunch at one time. But that's
really
that guy. Well, anyway, his job resume is amazing. This is a guy who used to be the martial arts instructor for the British cops in Hong Kong.
Wow.
Oh God,
that's really something. I love Kurt Russell so much.
And then comes Looker, which is another one of my all-time favorite, most people have never seen, but you should have, movies, which is both written and directed by Michael Crichton, with Albert Finney as a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. And these gorgeous, beautiful, stunning women come to him and say, "You might not think I need plastic surgery, but I need this little mole removed, and I have to have a 3.8 distance between my aureole," and all kinds of little specific things. And the reason is they're being hired by this company to be computer templates for commercials, that once they've got them stored and they're perfect, they can put them in commercials that are artificially created, shades of AI and everything else.
Whoa.
This movie was way ahead of its time. And that's James Coburn is the bad guy, and Lee Taylor Young is his assistant, and Susan Day is the one who becomes friends with Albert Finney. And Looker is also light. Oh, golly, I forgot it again. But anyway, it stands for something that is a hypnotic technique, that when you watch these commercials with these perfect women created by a computer, something in their eyes makes you buy the product, and they're talking about doing it with politicians. So, and great music by Barry Dvorak. And then next up, for something completely different, we're going to do Walt Disney's Robin Hood.
Oh,
so there you go.
Interesting.
There you go. And that's the next few. And then after that, who knows? And that reminds me to remind everybody about today's Jukebox. I always like to pull music from something interesting from movies. This is from a movie most of you haven't seen, and you should, called Tapeheads, which is just a fun picture, but it creates an unreal band of two guys, the Swanky Modes. And they are, in reality, of course, junior, I can't think of the names now, shame on me. But why can't I think of the names? They're these two great old jazz men. One is come on now. Well, you look it up. Anyway, the big finale of the movie is the Swanky Modes doing a song called "Any Ordinary Man Would Have Given It Up by Now," or "The Ordinary Man Rag." And you can watch this as our Jukebox clip of the week. And
Sam Moore and Junior Walker?
That's right. Junior Walker and Sam Moore. Sam of Sam and Dave fame. And they just, gosh, they dress right, they dance right, they sing right. Oh, golly. Highlander 2. Okay, I'll alert the troops, really. I think we should do Highlander before Highlander 2, but that's just me. Anyway, it's a great, and also in this movie is Devo is in this movie, doing a song called Baby Doll that was written for the movie. There is a wonderful thing about Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. All these great musical numbers, because it's about these two guys who want to get into the music video business back at the dawn of music videos, and are making these music videos to promote themselves. And anyway, this number will give you, if it doesn't get your feet tapping and you up dancing with them, then there's something wrong with you. That's all. It just, I say that without fear of contradiction. Anyhow, that's your musical highlight of the week.
I love that. The link is, by the way, in the chat as well as in the description here, so definitely check that out. Looker sounds very, very interesting.
Looker is the most. I should find that. Well, anyway, somewhere the opening song of that is with a little clip. And I can find it. Wait a minute. I know where it is. I know where it's lurking. Barry DeVorzon, who was a disco guy in the day, but he did the music, and a girl named Sue Sad or something like that did it. Come on.
While you look for that as well, Disney's Robin Hood, apparently, from what my parents tell me, I wore out the VHS watching that movie over and over again. And
really? I didn't know it was as popular. It was Lauren's idea, and by golly, it's a great picture. I didn't know Roger Miller, doing the music seemed like a funny. You have all these English actors in the movie, and Peter Ustinov as Sheriff John, and but for some reason it's good old trailers for Sailor Red doing. Here we go. Let's see. You want a fun
fan, by the way.
Opening that really shares the flavor of the picture, and even has one of the commercials that they do with the Looker device at the end. And one of the greatest stunt falls, by the way. I don't know who the stunt woman was who doubled for this Playboy Playmate who plays the gorgeous girl at the beginning. But they took a header off this building in Long Beach onto a car that, I know it was done safely, but still, talk about great stunts. There's the link over there in the sidebar.
Go ahead and put it over here.
It's just such a neat little movie.
You want to go ahead and see what LEW'S link is all about, you can go ahead and click that in the chat right now, and that'll be very, very interesting. That sounds like a pretty interesting movie.
It's so prescient. It's so ahead of its time.
Right.
And of course, there's no real AI, and there's no cell phones, and there's no, back in a simpler time. But Michael Crichton had the vision of the future in so many different ways. I hope some of them not true, like Jurassic Park. But but the fact that he directed this one too, I think makes it special.
That's really cool. That's awesome.
And also Dorian Harewood is in it, who was lived in the apartment across from me once upon a time, so we got to know each other. Great guy as a cop, and was, I think, notable among black actors of his era for not doing those shuck and jive pimp roles that everybody else was doing. He always played cops and doctors and politicians, and so good for him.
I'm going through the images of the film right now. I'm really glad I'm not sharing my screen. There's
that's right. Well, there is obviously, when they're taking pictures of these women naked, they have to take a picture of them naked. So if naked bothers you, you won't like it. But otherwise, it's very chaste. There's no sex per se. But hey, the Winged Victory was in pieces, and people still put it together. So if Rachel says it's okay, it must be true.
That's a Rachel Zegler line.
If you think otherwise, you're weird. There's an old joke about the guy goes to the psychiatrist to take the Rorschach test, the ink blot test, this one. And I might have told it before, but then I do that a lot on here. I'm sorry. But the guy shows him. He says, look, there's no right or wrong answer. Just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind when you see this ink blot. And he shows him the first one. He says, that's two people making love. He says, interesting. Okay. Shows him the next one. He says, what do you see? He says, that's another two people making love. Shows him the next one. What do you see? He says, that's four people making love. And the shrink says, we haven't finished the test, and I'm not going to give you a complete reading, but it seems like you're kind of obsessed with sex. And the patient says, me? You're the one with the dirty pictures. So, it's all in the eye of the beholder, Rachel, dear, and nobody's beholdering you this weekend, relatively speaking. And now she's going to be Evita. God, that's frightening.
Oh, man. That's...
Without auto-tune, without... Somebody said she's got a belt voice, and I said, yeah, well, they should have made the belt a little tighter. But...
that's terrible. Terrible, Lou. Terrible.
Well, we have a few belts before you go see the movie. It couldn't hurt.
All right. I think on that note, Lou, we better get out of here because
time's flown while we were having fun. It does that, But everybody, I will play my same old theme song, which is keep watching us for more goodies and keep exploring, because it hasn't been that long since there were so many good pictures out there. And they all happened on the same backlots with the same glamour trams going by. Honest, they did. I know, because I watched some when I was a grip a billion years ago. I'll leave you with a Lew Wasserman-ism I found. I found a clip. I think I shared it with you. We don't want to run the clip, but it was Barry Grazer, Ron Howard's partner. And he talked about, he got his first job in business. He was going through law school. And a friend of his told him he had just quit a job as an assistant to the legal guy at Warner's. So he called up and said, hi, I understand you need somebody. I'm available, because he wanted the job. And they hired him. And his entire job, he was just in an office that was a 2x4 cubicle, was to take papers from this legal guy at Warner Brothers to actors and directors and people at other studios and deliver them. And every time he went, he would encounter another assistant like himself, to whom he would say, I'm sorry, but I'm not allowed to give this to you. I have to give it to the person themselves. And the guy knew he was BSing, but he wouldn't give it to him any other way. So he got to meet lots of famous folks and kibitz with them and learn things from them. And once upon a time, he got in to see Lew Wasserman, and after 2 minutes, Wasserman said, all right, you're full of it. You can leave now. He says, but I'm going to show you something. I'll teach you a lesson. There's the picture. And he says, Lew Wasserman held up a legal pad, a blank one in one hand, and a pencil in the other, and said to him, these are relatively worthless, but if you can put them together and come up with an idea, now you've got something that's worth monetizing. So I leave that to all of you, come up with a new idea and the world will beat a path to your door, or not, but at least you have a shot. And on that note, I will stop pontificating for one more week and leave you all to your various Sunday pursuits. What do you do on Sundays, everybody? Besides this, of course, and don't miss this.
Thank you so much, Lou.
And thanks to all the mods, too. Yes, absolutely.
Mods. The mods, indeed. All you. That includes Juliet, Tom F., Going Shogi, Hanging with Erica and Raph. I believe we have, what is it? I believe a fellow Bradley's Fun as well. Nolan Thunder, I believe, is part of it. So thank you so much for doing what you do every single time we do go live. By the way, T3PO Live, back at its regular time on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, following the Pro Show. If you're watching that show, you'll be redirected right to it.
Wherever there is trouble, I'll be there. Wherever there is...
Yeah, exactly, right? We're going to be talking about the Epcot fires and so forth, and some of the more interesting things.
Yeah.
Going on in the theme park.
I tell my bad joke or not? Is it in bad taste or not? I can't quite decide. Too soon?
Well, you go ahead.
Well, my joke was that the Imagineers, the ones who did all that research in New Orleans in order to do Tiana, they somehow confused New Orleans with France and decided they were going to do blackened croissants, and this is what happens. Anyway, it was probably too soon. But
Oh, no. Well, nobody was injured. Nobody was hurt. So I think we're okay to do that. But hey, it is something that is very interesting to discuss because we have some information that, I don't know, nobody seems to have. So that's going to be very, very fun.
Ooh.
Definitely check us out. And, well, we'll see you all
This
next
is
time.
where you come for your scoops, folks. You know,
Absolutely.
these channels will tell you stuff that you didn't know and nobody else knew either until we knew. And even we didn't know until somebody told us. So if you got something to tell us, oh, pan au chocolat. Oh, I got to order some now. SG, shame on you. You gave me a fixation. Anyway.
Thank you so
It's
much.
a croissant with chocolate in it, folks. What could be bad? What could be bad, right?
No, nothing's bad. That's actually
Yeah.
very, very good. So definitely check us out here on Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you next Sunday. We'll see you all next time. Take care, y'all.
Adios, muchachos.